Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk with Ethan. And today I'm here with Dave, who is a rigger and carpenter. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Before we get started here, we're going to play a little game called Spin the Wheel of Ethan. So, let's spin that wheel. What's it going to land on?
How did I spend what?
Hooray! How did you spend...
how did I spend
how did you spend New Year's Eve?
How did I spend New Year's Eve? I spent it with a very special friend of mine, and we were watching James Bond movies, and then we switched over to watch the ball drop in Manhattan at Times Square, and then we went back to watching the James Bond movies because that's how we roll. And we split a bottle of champagne because that's what you do.
Exactly, it's the occasion, right? New Year's,
Yep. We stayed inside where it was safe and warm.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for playing the Wheel of Ethan. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, my name is Dave Vick, and I am a professional stagehand based here in the East Lansing, Michigan area. I've worked in the industry for 37 years professionally. I got my start back in junior high school, actually, back when dinosaurs ruled the earth. But for much of the past probably 25, 26 years, I've done a lot of touring with Broadway shows, both nationally and around the world. And between tours or when I'm at home, I'm part of the house crew here of my professional roadhouse here, the Wharton Center for Performing Arts at Michigan State University. I'm a member of the IATSE, International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees Union, and I am president of my Local 274 here in Central and Northern Michigan. And just a working stagehand, although these days there's not much work for us, so I'm doing other things until we can get back into the theaters.
For sure. There's a lot of titles. It sounds like local president of your local IATSE, and it's kind of crazy, right?
Got to stay busy.
For sure.
I get bored easily.
As we all do, but during quarantine, nothing else, right?
Right.
Definitely. Could you explain how you got into technical theater?
Well, my original foray back in junior high school, a long time ago. My first shot at theater was actually an acting role. As part of the junior high drama club, I got cast in a show with the local civic theater company that they were doing an outreach program to junior high kids in the city. And I got cast in, they did a production of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. And I have had the questionable fortune of getting cast as a troll. And that was all well and good as far as it went. But while I was doing that and having an awful lot of trouble learning my lines and being an actor, I discovered it's like, wow, these guys that are dressed in black back here that are making the scenery move and doing the shuffle, they look like they're having an awful lot of fun. So the bug bit then, and the next production that they did was a production of Cheaper by the Dozen. And they asked me if I wanted to act in it. And I said, no, I'd actually rather work on the technical crew if it's all the same to you. And they said, sure. And so I did that, and that was all fine. And that sort of led to when I was in high school, I was the drama club nerd who worked backstage, did all the scene shifts and whatnot. And that was my first work on the fly reel, actually, in high school. And after I graduated, I had a succession of different jobs over a couple, 3-4 years. And eventually I wound up working sound for a bar band here in Michigan that was, doing the bar circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we were playing a show in one of the bars here in East Lansing, and I was mixing the show, and some guy walked up to the mixing console and introduced himself and said, "Hey, I work with the local stagehands union. We do all the concerts here in town and do the Broadway shows here at the old auditorium, and they're building a new theater here on campus. And so, if you're interested in that kind of work, I'll give your name to the business agent, and maybe you can come in and work on our crew."
Mm-hmm.
In September of 1984, I got my first call to go in and work at the newly opened Wharton Center on a production of Guys and Dolls. And the hook was set at that point. I walked on. At that point, it was like, all right, this is magic. I got to do this for the rest of my life. And I've never looked back. I'm the high school drama club nerd who's made it pay off. I've had a brilliant career for the past 37, 38 years, and every day is still magic to me. Any day I can get into the theater, and if it ever stops being magic, then it'll be time for me to die, because there won't be any magic left in the world. That's my gig. That's my gig.
Nice. Well, how big is that theater in Michigan you talked about?
The Wharton Center, our great hall, is 2,500 seats. It's continental seating. It's the stage is 125 feet wide by 55 deep by 76 to the grid. It's 65 line set fly system.
Nice.
We've got 192 channels of lighting control, dimmer per circuit. We've got a state-of-the-art 20 years ago analog sound system, but it still sounds dynamite in there. And it's basically the prime roadhouse in Central Michigan for touring Broadway shows and concerts. A lot of big shows, they'll play East Lansing before they hit Detroit or Grand Rapids, because we have, at one point, actually, the Wharton Center is one of the top 10 grossing theaters in the nation. So,
oh, wow.
We have a very strong community support system for the arts in this part of the state. The Broadway series and all the smaller series. The Wharton has 2 stages. We have the big stage, the Great Hall, and there's also a 600-seat thrust stage, the smaller Passant Theater. We do a lot of jazz shows and Act Ones. There's small performances like that. Theater department uses it occasionally. The MSU theater department. There's also an older auditorium on campus that the theater department and the School of Music use that we also staff there. And there's just a surprisingly large amount of theater in the Central Michigan area, and I'm blessed to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Well, and that's good to have that great community, right? Because if no one's interested, it dies, right?
Yeah. The shows don't bring their own audiences. You got to support the arts, or the arts goes away, and we can't have that.
Yeah, and I feel we've kind of had that now in pandemic, right? When no one's doing shows.
12 million people unemployed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not just the theater community, but also the support communities, because like any show that comes into your roadhouse is like in like here at the Wharton Center or whatever if there's roadhouses in Southern Cal, I'm sure, well, aside from what the closest one is, Orange County, there's Segerstrom Hall, which I've been to. Yeah. It's beautiful. But there's not just the theater and the theater community, but there's also like restaurants and bars for people that go to pre-show, post-show, hotels for people who travel to see a show, or people like me who would travel with the show. It's a huge segment of the nation's economy. And the pandemic has hit us really, but we're going to be the last ones back to work. We were the first ones out, and we'll be the last ones back. And it's just a huge segment of the, not only the national economy, but the global economy. We're like we're the canaries in the coal mine,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, sorry. So you say you toured with some shows. Could you explain some of those?
Well, my first tour was in 1993. I did a tour of a production of The Wizard of Oz that played both in North America, and then we took it over to Korea. And we came back from Korea. I did another about a year tour of the show Crazy for You. I was rigger on that and Flyman. I came home from that. I took a break from the road for a little while and worked on as part of the house crew at the Wharton Center, as part of the house stage crew, rather than one of the on-call guys like I am now. Mm-hmm. I studied up and became ETCP certified. I'm a double certified rigger, both arena rigging and theater rigging, in 2008. And shortly after that, I got picked up to be rigger and assistant carpenter on a revival tour of the show Chorus Line, which went for about 2.5 years. Nice. I did a couple of years. My favorite tour of all, the next one, I did 2 years as automation carpenter and rigger on the show Warhorse, which was a magnificent tour. That's the one I'm proudest of. That was art. That was the best tour ever. And I've done a few other tours since then, but primarily I stick around home.
Nice.
Touring is a young man's job, and I'm not a young man anymore. So,
yeah, exactly. We have a question from the chat. Do you prefer being on the road or working at your local roadhouse?
Yes. I don't really have I miss the road a lot, but sleeping in your own bed every night also has its advantages. So, I think if all things were equal, I probably would rather be on the road, though. I miss the road a lot.
Nice. So you said that show that you mentioned a while ago is your favorite show on the road?
Warhorse? Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about Warhorse was that it was so powerful. It was a touring dramatic show, which doesn't happen very often. It wasn't a musical. It wasn't a musical comedy. It was a very powerful show. I don't know if you've seen the movie production of it.
I have not.
The movie. Okay. The show is based on a children's book written by a gentleman named Michael Mapurgo, I believe, a South African author. And the tour, the show was originally bought out by the National Theatre of Great Britain in London's West End. And then they brought the show to the United States and they toured it over here. I can never remember the director's name. Not George Lucas, one of those guys. He saw the show in London's West End and was so taken by the show that he bought the film rights to it and produced and directed the movie production of Warhorse. But it was all based on the Broadway show. It's such a powerful drama. It's a story of friendship and loyalty, and it's in my opinion, it's what theater is about. It was so powerful, and I mean, I watch the show every night, and I know what's going on, and it still made me cry. It's Definitely. It's a perfect example of the magic of theater.
Yeah.
So that's
definitely
that's the show that I'll have carved on my tombstone. That's the one I'm proudest of.
We have another question. You said you toured internationally. What other countries have you worked in?
I've worked in Korea. I've worked in Japan, Indonesia, and Singapore.
Wow, that's a long ways away from home for both of us.
It's a bit of a flight. Yeah, it's a bit of a plane ride.
Definitely. Do you have a favorite country you've been to out of those three?
Japan. Absolutely. Nice. I love pretty much every place I've gone to over the years, but Japan's got a special place in my art.
Mm-hmm. You say you've done some rigging in theater. Could you explain what a rigger is for those who don't know?
Well, Our job is basically to defy gravity. Riggers in the theater, not so, and also in an arena situation, but in the theater, the riggers are responsible for the safety of hanging things overhead, all of the flying scenery that you see or work with, the fly rail that's they use to raise and lower drops, any suspended sound points, lighting points, anything like that. That's riggers' jobs to deal with that stuff, and it's an awful lot of fun to do it, but it's also a very serious business. You're trying to do the math to ensure that everything that you're hanging in the theater is within safe production tolerance, that you're not going to have an accident and hurt somebody.
Definitely.
But,
have you had any accidents doing no?
I kind of don't like talking about. I've very few. I will say very few over the course of the 37 years.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a bad day every so often. I haven't killed anybody, but I did
that's
some.
A plus.
I did some serious damage to a grand piano once, but I haven't killed anybody.
I mean, grand pianos can be replaced. They're expensive, but that's something that's replaceable.
Right.
Definitely.
I won't say
so you
I
said
did
you're the
it.
president.
Mm-hmm. I'm the president of my
stage
stage
of your stagehand. What is your role as a president?
Well, as president of my local, it's my job basically to make sure that the various officers of my local serve the membership. It's really not as important as you would think it is. I mean, it's not like president of the United States or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's my job is to make sure that my secretary treasurer and my business agent and my recording secretary and all my officers do their jobs. I'm the chair of any committees I'm like my education committee, my membership services committee. It's really, I don't want to say it's like glorified babysitter because it is a very important job, but it's basically you're at the top of the ladder, which makes you the best target when people start throwing crap around. But basically, it's my job to make sure that the local runs correctly and it serves our membership, negotiating contract wages, securing work for our members, and addressing any safety issues or anything like that. Just making sure that my people get fair treatment on the job.
Exactly. That's very important, of course.
Yes.
For sure. Could you explain what IATSE stands for?
Well, IATSE, the letters are International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. It's the little bug like I have here on my shirt. And it's basically the union that protects workers on stage or in also film and video work or wardrobe. We represent some front of house staff like ticket takers and ushers in some parts of the country. And it's basically an international union which represents stage and film workers throughout the United States and Canada.
Okay. Nice. Mm-hmm. We have another question from the chat. Has the union been able to help out or of work or disabled stagehands during the pandemic?
Well, we have tried as hard as we can. We've had some union locals throughout the country who have pitched in and helped build like field hospitals or external shelters for like pandemic wards in various hospitals around the country. I've gotten a communication from my international president in New York a few days ago regarding having locals assist in doing some of the infrastructure assistance for distribution of vaccines, like again, building shelters, building sheltering or transportation for vaccinations, or getting people to someplace where they can get vaccinated. We've advocated at the state and local governments, and to an extent at the national government, with trying to get some of the CARES Act and the HEROES Acts passed by state and national congresses to try and help out people in the entertainment industry with expanded unemployment, or the pandemic, the extra payments, either getting expanded coverage or the extra federal subsidy towards unemployment. We've done anything we could. We've been in negotiations with some of our employers, trying to be sure that when we do go back to work, that we're doing it in a safe manner. So, like mask rules and social distancing, making sure that employers understand their responsibilities to supply masks or hand sanitizer, to be sure that we're not engaging in risky practices, that kind of thing. So we've done everything we can think of, and we're always up for more ideas.
Yeah. If you guys have any, let them know.
Or let your union local know.
Definitely.
If you're not in Michigan, we've got locals all over the country, and everybody needs a helping hand today. Nobody's going to get out of this by themselves.
Exactly.
We all get pulled together.
Teamwork.
Yep. If we don't stand together, we're going to hang separately.
Yep. Exactly. So you said, of course, we're in a pandemic, and we're out of jobs. How do you think theater will be different when we come back?
Well, I think you're going to probably, for a while anyway, see reduced capacity in theaters. I don't think that, on paper anyway, we're supposed to start back up in the fall here in East Lansing. But I don't think we're going to be putting 2,500 people into my 2,500 seat Great Hall for a while yet. Not until there's a little better distribution of vaccines and we've got some kind of herd immunity going. So my initial thing, I think we're going to see reduced capacities in the audiences. It's impossible that we might have to engage, like a touring show may wind up, rather than like the normal sitting in one city for 1 week, a week's worth of performances. They may stay on for a second week just to fill the numbers. I'm not really sure how it's all going to shake down. There's been an awful lot of speculation on how that's going to work, and frankly, I have no idea at this point. All I know, I'm pretty certain, though, that we're going to see reduced capacities for quite some time to come. And we'll see how it goes from there. What the effect that has, I don't know what the... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do you have any tips for prospective theater technicians to enter the industry after a pandemic?
Well, to add to my main thing, if anybody's interested in a career in theater, is if you are still in school, stay in school. Don't drop out and don't figure out, I'm going to run away and join the circus. That doesn't work anymore. The big thing is do your math, get your math scores up. All that trigonometry that you swear you're never going to use a day in your life.
Yep.
Every day. It's if I had paid better attention in trig, and I believe me, I was a math geek in high school. I did math and science. If it wasn't for math and science, I probably wouldn't have graduated from high school. But I had that. I'm never going to use this stuff. And then
Yeah, exactly.
10 years later, I'm on the road hanging 104 motors in a theater for Warhorse. And I'm like, oh yeah. That stuff I swore I was never going to use. Yeah, every bloody day.
Now.
Yeah.
For sure.
Stay in school. Get your math going. And just, if you're going in, be aware of your surroundings and stay safe. Wear a mask. It doesn't matter. Don't let anybody shame you into not wearing a mask. They've been wearing masks in other parts of the world for 25 years, and nobody thinks about it anymore. There's no reason not to. It's just use your brain. The single biggest muscle in your body. Use that. And be safe. Don't let anybody rush you.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, for joining me today on Tech Talk with Ethan. It was a pleasure talking to you.
The pleasure's mine. Thank you very much for the invitation.
No problem. Thank you, guys.